Am I being mean to the people who are foaming at the mouth to say the N-word, so instead they just say DEI? Good.
Up next, do Democrats just need to be meaner and more insulting to Americans who disagree with them? That's the argument made by one increasingly popular TikTok influencer whose whole shtick is to insult and belittle Republican women based on their appearance and makeup.
Hey, I noticed that all of the Republican girlies in my comments do their makeup the exact same gorgeous way, so I thought that I would try to do it myself. We really want our makeup to cling to any dry spots and accentuate any texture that we might have. We want to choose a makeup that doesn't match the undertones of our skin. I also applied extra tanner to my hands so that it doesn't actually match. It's giving drained, it's giving dusty. We want to make sure that it doesn't look like we've ever used moisturizer once in our life. I try not to look so jaundiced, me personally. Zigzag part in her hair is also certainly a choice. I actually had the same one in my 5th grade school photo. Finally, maybe next time don't use the Grinch as your lip flip inspo. At least go for Martha May Whovier. That would be a massive step up. Oh no, am I being mean to the people who want to erase my trans friends from existing on this earth? Am I being mean to the people who are foaming at the mouth to say the N-word, so instead they just say DEI? Good. Perfect. And I assure you, I sleep so well at night. You can check my Oura Ring score, knowing I'm doing everything I can to speak out against these people. I sleep with a fan on medium, humidifier on high, and a face oil to lock in the moisture. They should try it.
This woman's name is Suzanne Lambert, and she styles herself as a liberal Regina George, like from Mean Girls. And she basically just insults Republicans on TikTok and is becoming very popular for it, even though she's like very divisive and very toxic and kind of doing the opposite of convincing people. She's doing fan service for Democrats and resistance liberal types who like to see Republicans belittled, but independents or Republicans who see her content are almost certainly made to feel defensive and attacked, not convinced or persuaded. So if you're a Democrat and you want to convince Democrats, you really should be against this approach, just as a kind of a basic logical strategy. But the mainstream media, with its liberal bias, is cheering her on. We're going to take a look at a package that CBS News did, basically uncritically promoting this woman's work, even though she's one of the most toxic woke people on the internet. Here's the first clip from her interview.
Not all of us were meant to be Michelle Obama, Jack Schlossberg liberals. Some of us were meant to be Regina George liberals. Y'all did it your way, and we're doing it our way.
Regina George liberals. That was viral TikTok influencer Suzanne Lambert explaining and defending her growing celebrity as a, quote, this is the quote, mean Democrat. Lambert has built a following, you should know, of more than 500,000 on TikTok. Her videos have been viewed millions of times and significantly garnered more than 10 million likes. Here is one of her most popular, where she mocks Republicans who criticize her, and she does it through kind of a makeup tutorial.
Rather than using a brush, we're actually just going to apply directly to the skin and use our hands. That way it's streaky, it doesn't blend well. Now I've got my driest mascara that I'm just going to kind of make sure you get a little on the eyelids too, and don't clean it up, just for the full effect.
So as you can see from the package presented to introduce this woman, they're not like taking a critical look at this new online voice. They're just uplifting her. Like, look at this amazing influencer and this great work she's doing, calling Republican women ugly over and over again and making fun of them and insulting them and making them feel defensive. This is great. This is totally going to improve the quality of our public discourse and really help foster healthy political conversations across the divide. Like, what? How is this supposedly neutral host just like uncritically parroting and promoting this? And you'll see that he does not ask her any tough questions or push back on her really to any significant extent in this full segment. Here's a second clip.
And when you say Regina George liberal, what do you mean? Or Democrat?
So I love Mean Girls, of course. And Regina George, she has a lot of flaws. She's not a perfect character. Right. We're all flawed, right? But one thing that Regina is really good at, she's good at organizing. She's good at garnering attention. She hits back. She sticks up for herself. And that's something that we haven't seen historically from Democrats, from other liberals. And after the election, all the messaging was around how we're going to get through this with love and peace and kindness. And sure, those things are true. But I was like, I can't do another 4 years of this, especially given everything they're
You're a
doing.
little low on the peace and joy part, right?
I mean, yeah, and I think too that, you know, there is a lot of love in fiercely advocating for people and policies, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, guys, when she insults people's looks and makes fun of them, she's just showing love in advocating for people, bro. No, if you actually cared about the causes you say you care about, from immigration to trans issues or whatever, you would be trying to cross the divide and convince people, because we live in a society where we have democratic governance, representative governance through a democracy and a democratic system. You have to convince your neighbors if you want to achieve your political goals, not insult and belittle and demean them. That might get you internet clout. It might make you money from the TikTok Creator Fund, but it does not help your side or make our country a better place. I mean, she really does seem to believe in a very toxic, very eye for an eye type of approach to politics and discourse. Take a listen.
Point, does ferocity need to be met with ferocity?
I would say so. I mean, people will be like, you shouldn't fight fire with fire. I'm like, well, I'm not a firefighter. You don't want me fighting fires. I put aluminum foil in the microwave, like, fairly recently, right? I'm not in charge of fire response.
That didn't work out well, I'm gathering.
No, it didn't. Funny thing about that. But I would also say you don't fight fire with a little drippy water hose. You fight fire with equal exertion of force, and I think that we need to do that.
And you've talked in your videos about comments like, oh, don't be so harsh, don't be so piercing, don't be so judgmental. And your reply is, in general?
In general, I mean, men do it all the time, right? Look at Steve Colbert. Look at Jon Stewart. They've been doing this, right? Humor has been a cornerstone of politics for the entirety of our history, but typically you see it coming from men. And you don't see people in Jon Stewart's comments telling him to be nice. Right. You're so mean. They might say other things.
Guys get a free pass.
Yeah. I mean, to an extent, yeah, they don't tell them to be nice. So when it's a woman doing it, people are like, whoa, 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 this is really mean. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point.
So neither other people do it too, or eye for an eye are good or valid moral arguments in defense of insulting and bullying people because they disagree with you. The first one, I don't know that these male comedians she named, really, they don't go after people's looks with the regularity and ferocity that this woman does. To be clear, I don't think. They're also a lot funnier than her. Though a couple of her videos have been humorous, I will admit. But if she was coming from a more like jokey place or kind of playful, making fun of people, and less of like a genuinely nasty, hateful place, I'd be able to find her a lot funnier. And then this eye for an eye approach is so crazy, because when you fight fire with fire, you don't put out the fire. You don't save the country. You burn everything down. It just leads to escalation, like tit for tat and tit for tat. Like, that's why the whole idea is supposed to be turn the other cheek. Don't sink to their level. Just because Trump calls people names or whatever, or because you think the other side is evil and mean, doesn't mean you should be that in reverse. Because then not only are you starting this escalation that's going to take us to a worse place, you're also becoming the thing you say you hate and you're supposed to be against, which then, how are you better exactly? How are you different? It really just represents to me everything that's wrong with the discourse online, because she's able to build a brand for herself, make herself money, and get herself attention by catering to extreme liberals, fomenting their hatred of the other side, while actively putting off and discouraging people from the opposite side to interact or hear from their perspective, and making her own cause less popular, but aggrandizing herself and supporting her own budding career as an influencer and making money while actively making everything worse. It's like, rare do I come across an influencer who so perfectly embodies the opposite of what I hope to do in this space. And again, why is mainstream media cheering her and uplifting her like she's some kind of cool or heroic figure? If anything, I'm not against interviewing people. I would interview this woman if I hosted a television show, but I would ask her pointed questions. I would push back on her. I would ask her all of these things I'm talking about now. I wouldn't softball and promote toxic people who are making the discourse worse. Like, ask yourself this: would CBS News ever have a Republican troll, a Republican TikTok troll who just makes fun of how non-binary people look on the internet? And those accounts exist. And occasionally they are funny. But would CBS News ever do a full segment uncritically promoting those people and saying like, look at you. Oh, you're having this big impact. You're like the new Regina George. No, they would not. And we know why. But if mainstream media didn't have double standards, they really wouldn't have any standards at all. What do you guys think? Are you a fan of this woman's content? Do you think influencers like her are making the world a better place? I do want to hear from you, so let me know in the comments down below. And do hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet.